Mercedes in the 1980s had a pretty good idea about what their cars should be. Well-built, dependable, comfortable cars presented as either a convertible, a saloon, an estate, or even a coupe if you're feeling very adventurous. They weren't boring exactly, but I can't imagine many people had their pants set alight by a W126 S-class, despite its excellence. And oh yeah, they also made this. This is the story of the Mercedes 190e 2.5 16 Evo II. So that car looks mad, right? But how did Mercedes go from making this to making this? Well, it started with one of Mercedes' best known platforms, the W201. W201 was Mercedes' internal code for a platform that would go on to form the basis of the 190 series of saloon cars. It was famously over-engineered, with Mercedes claiming to have invested £600 million in development, an investment that the company itself admits was probably somewhat superfluous. However, it resulted in one of the automotive world's strongest and most well-loved platforms. Development took place throughout the late 1970s and into the early 1980s, and by 1982, Mercedes were ready to put their new smaller sedan on sale. I could tell you all the little details about the many variations of the 190 through its over 10 years in production, but I know why you're here. You're here to hear about racing. Luckily, Mercedes were having a similar thought, and in 1983, the Cosworth-tuned Mercedes 190e 2.3 16V was unveiled at the Geneva Motor Show. As the lengthy and rather digit-heavy name would suggest, the car now had a 16-valve 2.3-litre inline 4-cylinder engine that had been meddled with by Cosworth. The extra Cosworth bits helped the engine produce 186 brake horsepower, approximately 50 brake horsepower more than the standard car. And this wasn't without reason. The appetite for racing these cars was strong. The 190e 2.3 16V with its pokey Cosworth engine was all the encouragement a small team at AMG needed to build something for the track. The Deutsche Tourenwagen Meisterschaft had stoked the German sporting spirit, bringing in some of Europe's leading car manufacturers to fight it out on track to see who really made the best cars. Mercedes had been eyeing up DTM for a while, and they knew that an 8-valve 2.3-litre inline 4-cylinder engine probably wasn't going to cut the mustard against their rivals. The Cosworth partnership was an effort to put a strong performance engine into series production, homologating it for use in DTM. AMG were asked to work their magic. They partnered with Marco RSM, the personal race team of Helmut Marko, a name that you will recognise if you follow Formula 1 at all, to build a race car, to turn the new, sportiest version of the 190e into a serious race car capable of serious results. It's worth mentioning at this point, if you haven't picked up already, the DTM operates under the Group A regulations, meaning that the race cars have to be very closely related to a road car, of which at least 500 have been made. The road trim of the 2.3-litre Cosworth inline 4 wasn't bad by any means, but it only produced around 186 brake horsepower. But with a tune-up and some racing-specific parts, as well as some fettling with the rest of the car to make it track-ready, the 190e 2.3 16V was ready to be let out onto the track. If you're enjoying the video so far, tap the like button. It makes a huge difference. Thank you. First competing in 1986, the 190e quickly proved it was a competitive machine, with Marco RSM driver Volker Fiedler claiming a race win and enough podium finishes to grab second place in the championship in his 190e. An exceptional start for Mercedes. For 1987, the hope was to carry that momentum forward and hopefully achieve even better results. Unfortunately, fate had other ideas. Marco RSM entered 3 190e 2.3s into the DTM, however, the best result any of them could manage was a third-place finish in the opening round. It was all downhill from there, with the best championship ending being 9th place for Jörg van Ommen. Mercedes had been roundly beaten by both BMW and Ford. Something needed to change. 1988 saw a number of teams campaign a 190e 2.3 in the DTM, including Marco RSM for a third time. However, the results were very much like the previous year. Disappointing. But behind the scenes, the wheels were turning at Mercedes. They had come so close to success, they wanted to prove that the three-pointed star was worthy of gold. The 2.3-litre engine just wasn't providing the punch Mercedes needed to take the fight to BMW's M3 and Ford's mighty Sierra. And so for this new car, they developed a 2.5-litre engine instead. In road car trim, this new engine was capable of 197 brake horsepower, but everyone knew it was capable of a lot more than that. The new 2.5-litre engine had completely replaced the old 2.3-litre engine by the end of 1988, but it was only the first step in a long road. In March of 1989, at the Geneva Motor Show, Mercedes unveiled their grand plan. It was clearly a Mercedes 190e, but it did have some not-so-subtle changes that would differentiate it from a normal car. It of course had the new 2.5-litre engine, but it also had wider wheel arches and a brand new rear wing. Keener onlookers might have looked inside the car and seen a switch to control the suspension height, revealing a massive upgrade to the car's underpinnings. They also upgraded the car's brakes. The car was the 190e Evolution, and with 502 road cars produced, it was time to race. The car hadn't been ready for competition from the start of the season, meaning that all of the teams, including AMG, had started the season out with the old 190e 2.3. Klaus Ludwig had actually managed to score a pole position with the old car early in the season, but with the 190e Evo being rolled out from race 4, he managed to pick up 2 wins that season. However, it wasn't enough, and Klaus Ludwig, despite his 2 wins, only managed to claim 11th place in the championship overall. For Mercedes, this simply wasn't good enough. They needed to do better, and fast. No sooner than the 1989 championship had ended, Mercedes were already toiling away on the Evo II. Unveiled at the 1990 Geneva Motor Show exactly 1 year after its predecessor, the Evo II was everything bold about the Evo I taken to the extreme. The engine produced 15% more power. The body kit, designed by Richard Epler at the University of Stuttgart, had gotten wider and more aggressive, and the rear wing had grown to simply preposterous proportions. An entertaining anecdote from the time suggests that the head of BMW R&D said, quote, "The laws of aerodynamics must be different between Munich and Stuttgart," and continued that, "If that rear wing works, we'll have to redesign our wind tunnel." The anecdote goes that BMW did in fact redesign their wind tunnel quite shortly after this. Despite the Evo 1's less than perfect performance, the hype around Mercedes' DTM effort meant that it was rumoured that all of the Evo II road cars had already been sold before the car was even shown at Geneva. And you know what happened next? They took it racing. The 1990 season isn't a fair representation of the Evo II at all. Even factory partner AMG didn't get their hands on one to race until race 8 of the season, with other customer teams having to wait until race 10 or 11 of the 11 race season. 1990 did see a new competitor come to the fore though, the V8 Audi Quattro. Could Merck's EV2 really take the fight to the top teams? 1991 was the first full competition year for the Evo II, and it became clear that the Evo II was a huge upgrade. Klaus Ludwig claimed pole position at race 3 at the Nürburgring and would go on to win the race. However, the rest of that season yielded just 2 more poles and only 1 win for Klaus Ludwig, as well as a pole position and a 2nd place finish for his teammate Kurt Team. It had been a close battle, but Ludwig lost out on championship victory to Frank Biela and his mighty Audi V8 Quattro. 1992 was looking like it would be a do-or-die year for Mercedes. It would be the 7th consecutive year that they had campaigned some variation of the 190e in DTM, only ever managing silver. But 91's results had instilled hope in Mercedes, in their customer teams, in the drivers, and in the fans, that maybe, just maybe, it was possible to go for gold. Things started well. Kurt Team had moved to Zakspeed to race one of their 190e Evo IIs, and he managed to win round 1 at Zolder. Roland Ash, his teammate at Zakspeed in their other 190e Evo II, managed to win round 2 at the Nürburgring as well. 2 wins in a row for Zakspeed. Round 3 at Wunstorf saw AMG's Evo II take victory in the hands of Keke Rosberg. Things were getting exciting. Bernd Schneider would take victory in race 4 at Avis driving for AMG, and Roland Asch would take his second victory for Zakspeed at race 5, before Klaus Ludwig took victory on the Nordschleife in round 6. AMG and Zakspeed were now on 3 wins apiece, all of them driving 190E Evo IIs. It looked inevitable, one of them was going to win. Race 7 saw BMW offer some respite from the onslaught of the Mercedes, winning round 8 as well. Things were looking close. BMW was surely hoping to challenge the title, but the flame of hope was quickly extinguished, as Klaus Ludwig won round 9 and Bernd Schneider won round 10, 2 more victories for Mercedes AMG. Ludwig went on to win round 11, and despite retiring from the final race of the season, the scoresheet had chosen its victor. Klaus Ludwig, driving for AMG Mercedes, won the 1992 DTM Championship, driving a 190E 2.5 16 Evo II. That name really does never get any shorter, does it? It marked Mercedes' first DTM win at long last, and a win well earned. 1993 was the final year of competition for the Evo II, where it was beaten, along with all of its German compatriots, by the dominant Alfa Romeo 155 V6 Ti of Nicola Larini. DTM's move away from the Group A regulations meant that newly developed cars, like the Alfa Romeo, were at a relative advantage against cars developed for the old rule set, taking advantage of greater freedoms to modify their cars both mechanically and aerodynamically. For 1994, Mercedes had to follow suit, and it marked the end of 8 years of racing with the 190E. Despite not seeing the level of success we usually attribute to legendary cars, the 190E Evo II certainly is a legend. Why? Well, it could be the number of years it took to see success, it could be the fact that it ran with half as many cylinders as Audi's car, or it could just be the way that it looks. I mean, look at it. Yes, it was successful, but just look at it. Any car enthusiast loves this car. It's bonkers, and it's not what we expect Mercedes to do, or certainly wasn't at the time. And that makes it very special. YouTube thinks you'll love this video if you enjoyed today's story. Subscribe for more videos like this, and until next time, goodbye.